So, mate, I want to thank you firstly because how this came about. Somebody posted on Agency Savvy and we were having a chat about video and you dived in, and because you know video better than anyone on the planet that I know, and gave a few tips.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know many people. I'm stuck here in my little cave and just not allowed out.
Yeah.
And you offered to show some of the videos that you've created for your amazing clients, and Agency Savvy went nuts and basically blew up and went, oh my God, that would be amazing. And so now here we are, a whole 2 days later, 11:30 at night in the UK, and you're like, yeah, but I just think this will add value for everyone. I'm like, yes, it will, but it's 11:30 at night, you have a new baby. So thank you for jumping on and doing this for the members.
Of course. Mike, for you, anything, you know that.
You know I love you too, darling. Now, for everybody watching, this is just how we normally talk to each other, okay? It's not weird. It's just become a thing. I don't know where it started.
Just don't tell the wives. That's the only thing I'm asking. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, okay, I've got weird things going through my head now. Let's just do content. Let's not try and turn this into a comedy show, because I'll fail at that. So, YouTube, it's been your thing for a very long time, and I have referred to you often as the Ogilvy of YouTube because I love the way but I think it's true because you are not focused on the geeky side of YouTube. You have focused very much on the creative and the strategy side, and the world is finally catching up to this. I saw a Google slide recently that said, creative is something like 5 times more valuable than targeting. Now, they've only just put that slide out in the past few months. You've known this for years. The creative is everything. So I believe you're going to cover a little bit of sort of targeting just to set this up properly, and then we're going to talk about creative and look at some examples. Is that
yes?
Right?
Yeah, of course.
As much as you can. Obviously, you've got very confidential information, so everybody will respect that you can't show us everything.
Well, what I thought I'd do is
Don't I'd break it down.
Yeah, what I thought I'd do is break it down into how I think about video prior to ever creating it in the first place. So psychology of the customer, what type of customers you're going to be attracting, and how to build an experience for those people. And I'll go through that, and then I'll go into kind of some of the geekiness of like the maths or the science side of the YouTube, YouTube ads and stuff, and then get into the art side of it as well, and break down one of our videos that's working really, really well right now. The example I can give is one that I talk about every now and again from stage, like Tony Policastro, who's like a guitar tutor guy. Yep. Just insanely cool business, and the guys who run it, Levi, who's like the mastermind behind it, is seriously talented as well. So from that standpoint, it's an easy client to work with, but they don't mind me talking about them and bigging them up all the time, which is good. But they create such beautiful stuff, and they like, not every client, but you might give them instructions sometimes. But these guys do it to a T. It's like, if I say something, they absolutely nail it. Whereas normally I say to a client, okay, this is exactly what I want, and I get something that's vaguely similar to it, which is kind of like the bugbear of any creative, is like, you have an idea and then the client butchers it. Yeah. But these guys nail it every time. So what we can talk about is kind of breaking that particular ad that's working really well down to why it's working well, and then hopefully it gives people kind of inspiration as to how to create videos themselves.
Awesome. And I'm so glad you're doing the maths bit, because I remember sitting in a hotel room in San Diego with you either a year ago or maybe 2 years ago. I'm not sure which year you did that show for the first time, or that bit. I think it was last year. And we sat there beforehand and went through the slides, and I was just going, oh my God, this is so good. You've boiled this down to these 4 numbers and which ones. So yeah, stay tuned for that bit, everyone. But yeah, this was going to be about creative, but you get like 3 for the price of 1 here. This is awesome. And the price is free. So, go on then, take us away.
Cool. All right. So let's talk about YouTube ads, and feel free, Mike, at any point just to dive in and say, what the hell are you talking about? Or like whatever.
I'll stay here and unmuted and ask you silly questions every now and again. And if they start drilling upstairs, I'll mute myself and you're on your own for a bit.
Cool. All right, perfect. And there's screaming kids in the background. That's just what you're gonna have to deal with right now.
That's the new normal. So, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cool. So how to crush it with YouTube ads. I think everyone knows that YouTube's huge. I can't like tell you how many stats there are. These change all the time, but what is 4 billion videos every single second uploaded or something? Probably a bit overkill, that one, but there's a lot. There's a lot happening on YouTube, and it's big, as we all know. So there's over 2 billion users, and there's over 5 billion views a day. But that was like 2 years ago, so it's probably way more now. But this is the bit that's most important to me, is that like the average session duration is over 40 minutes. And apparently it's even more than that now.
Oh, in a lockdown, it's more than that, yeah.
Yeah, right. And also now it's on TV a lot more prevalently. So like I see the YouTube app on my TV and I watch YouTube on that, and then I'm sure I watch it for much longer. So we're getting used to like YouTube as kind of on par with TV in a way. We're starting to see it in that same light. But the fact that people are sticking around for 40 minutes is amazing. But what I like about the idea of that is that on a mobile or on a desktop, people are going there, getting suckered in and have a huge experience on YouTube. But it's such an individual experience that you're not, like, you don't say, oh, like everyone get around my phone and let's have a watch of this YouTube video. That never happens. Or it might do if something funny happens, like in a 2-minute clip or something. But most of the time you're kind of devouring content that is only interesting to you, and you're kind of watching that content based on your viewership. And the reason I like that so much is because when we're by ourselves, our true selves come out. Like if we're watching TV with the missus, or we're watching TV with friends or family or something, we're aware of the social setting we're in, and we're watching something on TV that everyone likes, and we're having opinions that we're hoping that everyone agrees with in the room. Like there's a social thing going on there. I mean, we behave differently there. But when we get into our own little worlds, we go and watch random stuff that interests us, that we start to allow the kind of unconscious part of us to come out a lot more. And if there's something that grabs your attention, it's grabbing your attention for a reason, because it's interesting to you, which is just a very, very, it's a moment just to yourself, put it that way. And it means that you're much closer to your desires, and when you're closer to your desires without a social setting going on, it's much more likely you're going to make a purchase if you see something that's relevant to you, or at least be very attracted to something that's relevant to you. Like sometimes I go down to like a weird place in YouTube and watching a video that I can't kind of lose attention. I'm just focused on it. And if my wife came in and said, what are you watching? I'll be sometimes embarrassed to say what I'm actually watching. It's not what you're thinking, Mike. It's more kind of
I'm thinking BigQuery. I'm thinking like, I'm going to try watching BigQuery videos with Gab and see how that goes down on occasion. I don't think, no, it's all right. I know.
Precisely. You get what I'm saying though, right? Because if you're watching
it's a great
BigQuery videos, like, if you're watching that and you're like into it, and like the kids came in and say, what are you watching? And you're like, I'm watching it's just cool Netflix thing or something. You know what I mean? You kind of like, you'll make up what you're watching out of pure embarrassment for your own desires. But anyway, so that's kind of like one thing, is that the customers going into this kind of this moment sometimes where they're very into what they're into, and if you get the ad in front of it at that point, you're going to do very well from a marketing perspective. But there's also a hidden impact with YouTube. So it is like TV. The fact that it's on TV now as one of the apps on most smart TVs is there. But it's so much more like TV than any other platform that I can think of. Like Facebook is a place where you are seeing ads all the time, but you know, like the experience you have with those is like they're individual companies showing their ads on Facebook. And we're kind of familiar with that. Great platform, works ridiculously well. Lots of people had lots of success with it. Times are changing at all times, but it's not like TV. It's a very different experience. Whereas YouTube is probably the closest thing we have to TV. And when you do that, your mind makes links to what TV is like and what YouTube is like. And there's similarities there. And our heuristic, or kind of our mental shortcut of YouTube, is like, if someone's going to the length to put a YouTube video out there, it's as if it's like they've put a TV ad out there. And for that reason, they must be good. That's a jump that we make. Like we make a shortcut. Like if we see a TV ad, we think big business. We think credible business. They must have done something good to get to that point and risk money, spending money on advertising on TV. So it's a kind of, you're cheating the psychology piece a little bit by having an ad on YouTube, because they're like, oh wow, this company must be good, which is cool. And I'll show you how you can leverage that a little bit more in the videos. But it can take your brand a long way just by riding that. I mean, I haven't mentioned here all the other benefits you get from this. So you'll probably find, I don't often talk about this, but you probably see this a lot, Mike. When you start running YouTube ads, you'll probably see your brand search you see a bump in that.
Yeah, sometimes a huge bump. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's all these kind of halo effects of having a really good video. And if people remember the video, you're going to see that a lot of people start just Googling you a lot more and looking for products that you provide. So it goes a long way, especially if you can be remembered for the right reasons, of course. So I run a company called Viewability. We're a agency. We're kind of a little bit not agency, in fact, we're kind of a bit un-agency, if that makes sense, because unlike most agencies where it's a percentage of ad spend or a monthly fee, we work on kind of CPA deals. So we'll fund the advertising and clients pay back based on results. The reason I say that is that, well, I've been advertising online for 13 years and this is our 7th year on YouTube ads. I'm rushing through the credibility piece because I'm just like,
everyone knows you, content. Everyone knows
exactly, you. But yeah, it's performance-based. And that means like a lot of people look at YouTube as like this brand awareness piece, but we're very focused on direct response and getting $1 to turn to more than $1 at profit and scale as quickly as possible. So we're very familiar with the direct response angle of this. And whilst we can create pretty videos if we wanted to, it's not always the pretty videos that work the best. And that's just so people feel like if you're getting into YouTube, you think, oh, I have to create a beautiful video and all this sort of stuff. And I will show you some beautiful videos because some of our clients create it like that. It's not to say that the beautiful videos always win. You can get some pretty ugly videos that work really well. So just as you don't have to be brilliant at video. But there are 3 areas of focus that makes a YouTube ad work really well. And these are the customer targeting, the video creative, and the perfect offer. Now, a lot of the time, the perfect offer piece is like really important for this because a lot of the time, if as an agency, if I go to a client, I think, this industry would kind of work well on YouTube, or this particular niche or niche would work really, really well on YouTube, but they have the wrong offer. Sometimes it's, or they're selling in a way that I don't think it's going to work well with YouTube. Sometimes it's really difficult to get the client to see it because they're doing really well on another platform, and they're like, no, like we're getting loads of conversions from Facebook, for example. I'm like, yeah, but YouTube mentality is slightly different. I'm just not sure it's going to work as cleanly. And we used to have battles with clients for years on like, all right, we just tweak the funnel a little bit, and then I think we'll work really well. I'm just not happy to risk making it work with the current funnel as it is. And what we've realized more recently is like, you can stick with the same funnel however you like, or however you're pitching that offer, but it just might need like an extra piece, like a little bridge prior to going to that offer. And I'll talk about that as well. So it's not that you have to change the offer. If you've got a good offer happening already, stick with it and just put another piece in front of it just to make sure your YouTube works well with it. But we'll go into that. Customer targeting. I don't want to go into too much depth here because your agency savvy people are going to know this ridiculously well. With regards to kind of like YouTube, you do have remarketing. You have placement targeting, which is where you can choose the individual videos you want to appear in front of, or the individual channels. Using the URLs, you can appear in front of them. You have keyword targeting. I really like keyword targeting on YouTube because it actually gets pretty good scale when you find a good keyword. But the trick is with keyword targeting on YouTube is to not necessarily just go with the keyword planner, but sometimes scrape some of the titles of the videos that are out there. So there's a tool called adzula.com that does this really well. So you kind of type in a keyword, it'll just give you all the titles in a text format, and you can use those as keywords. And the reason that happens is because sometimes you put this really long tail keyword in and it works ridiculously well. And you're like, great, I would never have guessed to put that one in there. It's got some weird words on the kind of in the keyword title that I would never have guessed, but it's working really well. And it also kind of gives you a bit more of a context behind how YouTube works. So I've used the example before where you type in something like how to get my baby to sleep at night if you're selling a product around that. And the third result that comes up is like all about lullabies. And you think, I wasn't really going to think about doing lullabies as a keyword, but I get why that works really well. And so you kind of get more of an idea of like the related keywords that you wouldn't necessarily see so much on Google, but you see a load of it on YouTube because it's just a different experience on YouTube. So there is the keyword thing. Oh, here we go. I've actually got the slide in here. Go back. There you go. So I've typed in how to get my baby to sleep, and then you see the third one down there is like lullabies, lullaby for babies, go to sleep, baby songs, sleep music, baby sleeping songs, bedtime songs. So you can almost like take that as a keyword if you wanted to. I think you're going to go beyond the actual characters you can use. But the idea being that you can take these phrasing of the title itself and get some really good results from that would never come up with the ad planner. So it's quite good to scrape those titles sometimes. Custom intent works really well on YouTube, especially if you're kind of using your target CPA campaigns, or if you're doing maximized conversions. I'm not sure what you see, Mike, whether you do maximized conversions or target CPA campaigns more when you're running YouTube.
We obviously don't do near the volume of YouTube that you do. So max conversions, for the most part, we won't use for non-brand search, GDN, and therefore we're probably a bit scarred by that experience and therefore less likely to use it on YouTube. TCPA for the most part for us.
Yeah, I think we're the same. We focus a lot on TCPA. One thing that we found with maximized conversions is almost like what we weren't expecting. So maximized conversions can get really good cost per acquisition, but it doesn't scale. So I would have thought maximized conversions, you think like, oh, Google are going to steal all my money and then just spend a fortune. That's what it feels like going in. But we find that happens more with target CPA. So target CPA is harder to rein in sometimes, I find, but maximized conversions almost doesn't spend the budget you want to give it, but it can get some really good CPAs. So
I think that's the trick with max conversions, is you've got to get the budget right. It can work really, really well to a point, but then if you try and extend the budget, it's basically that incremental CPA is just going to go crazy, because it will, where it will take your money. And so you've got to watch it a bit more carefully and think a bit more mathematically, I think.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So 4 times out of 5 we'll do target CPA, but every now and again we do maximize conversions, and we see some really good results from it sometimes. So yeah, it's interesting. Okay, cool. And then topics can scale like crazy and be really reliable as well. So I love topics, but I only get into topic targeting once we have good data in the account and feel like we know what the numbers should look like, and then start exploring some of those topics. And then similar audiences, we obviously do quite a bit of that. In-market audiences, not quite as much, I don't think. I mean, unless the team I must admit, I don't dive into the accounts nearly as much as I used to, but I know in-market audiences are kind of a bit hit or miss from YouTube sometimes, but we don't have that many e-commerce clients. We're doing a lot of like education-based clients and digital products. And then we've got affinity audiences. We love affinity audiences when they work. It feels like we're having to go with what Google gave us. But the custom affinity audiences, again, not easy to get them to work and know what kind of combinations work well to build those custom affinity audiences. But when we do get it right, that's really exciting as well. Those ones scale like crazy sometimes, which is exciting. So yeah, a few different ways of targeting, as everyone on this call knows. But the way that I want to use this is to kind of talk about like the psychology on YouTube for these types of targeting. So the way I think about it is 3 different types of shopper. So this really helps me when it comes to working out the experience we need to build for people. So if you imagine you had a physical store, you would, and you kind of were the store owner and you're on the high street, for example, that the first type of customer that might be of interest to you, or kind of are the people walking past the store. There's going to be 9 out of 10 people walk past the store and not even interested. Then every now and again, you're going to have someone who stops and think, oh, I've never seen this store before. Look through the window and look at some of the products or what it is you sell. And those people, what I call a window shopper. So they're kind of looking in. If you came out the store and said, oh, you should come in and there's some great stuff we're selling here, they may do that. So it's kind of the window shopper. They're interested, but they weren't looking for you at that moment in time. They're just kind of browsing and kind of they're interested to kind of know a little bit more. Maybe kind of if you put like a really good ad and showed like the results of what your product achieves, for example, they might be like, yeah, that looks quite interesting. Okay, I'll carry on listening to this video. It's that kind of mentality. It's like the people that are interested but not necessarily ready to go and buy just yet. So those I call kind of window shoppers. And the reason I call them window shoppers as opposed to like top of funnel, for example, is because top of funnel to me feels like I can't picture the person too well. Whereas a window shopper, I'm kind of like, oh, I know exactly who they are. I know what to say to them now, and I know how to think about the experience I want to build for them.
Right.
So in my mind, this is how they all kind of come together. So we've got the window shopper, which have fallen into my mind of like affinity audiences, similar audiences, in-market audiences, kind of in that mode of, yes, I might show interest, but I'm not necessarily ready to take the next step just yet. Then if they were ready, they become an in-store shopper at this point. So the type of targeting that gets in-store shoppers, I think in my head, is like placement targeting, custom intent, keywords and topics, people that are looking up that sort of content right there and then your ad shows. So with that, you've got kind of an in-store shopper, they're in the store. And this is where I feel like internet marketing as a whole falls down, because most people have like an offer of some sort to say, hey, look at this great thing I've got as an ad. And then the next step is, now come to my website and do what I want you to do, and then come and buy my thing, sort of thing. And I feel like that doesn't exist in the real world at all. That like, it's almost like walking past a store, being interested, or being like, oh, I really want to find out more about if this company can help me. And all of a sudden they're selling the one thing to you, and they're selling it really hard, and they're not actually listening to anything you have to say. It's more like, no, we've got this thing, and we're really happy with our 3.5% conversion rate. And it's like, oh, that could be so much better if you just thought through like the experience you're building for people. So the way that we like to do this is to say, right, for window shoppers, the people outsource that interest people, we might show like an advertorial or a longer video ad that is kind of showing a story that positions your offer really favorably. So they're like, oh, okay, cool, that looks quite interesting actually. So you're getting into the next step of thinking, I wonder if that would work for me. And if you're getting them to think like that, then immediately they become an in-store shopper. So they've almost come in the store and be like, I wonder if this actually works for me. So they almost come in the store with that question of like, I've heard about this great thing you do, this great product, this great system you have, but will it work for me or not? And that's where we like to put in this piece, this like bridge between the moment they're in the store, thinking of that question. We like to almost like qualify them to ask questions like a survey funnel type approach, where we'd ask questions and say, all right, well, let's find out if it would be right for you. What's most important to you about this particular product? Why do you want it? And let's ask you some fact-finding, qualifying questions. And then based on that, I can actually give you a bespoke follow-up and actually say, oh, well, based on the answers you've given me, here's what I'd actually recommend for you. So it's like a sales rep moment. So you're actually just waiting for them to tell you, and then you can actually give them better advice. And so instead of like, we're trying to change how people think about YouTube ads, particularly because people are coming in at this in their droves with in-store shopper type audiences, with all this, that's like the platform itself of YouTube. And everyone's trying to sell their one thing. And I'm like, oh, well, if you just ask them a few questions and you knew what they're going to tell you, then you might have 4 or 5 things.
Yeah. This is awesome. And I've seen you give a very similar presentation to this before, but the penny has just sort of dropped on that. How to better picture people. So I agree, I don't like tofu, bofu, all that stuff, but this maps very, very well for me to Avinash Cowshink's see, think, do, and then care would be your repeat shopper, which is way off to the left-hand side here. And that C audience, which is like largest addressable qualified audience, but with very, very weak intent. As you say, just that 1 in 10 walking past and, oh, this shop looks interesting. It's also similar to Schwartz's stuff for me. It's kind of like problem aware, solution aware, and sort of sliding down that scale. But what I love about Avinash's thing is it's customer centric and intent based, and we can measure intent now with much more than just a keyword. But this sort of takes away a layer of that abstraction, makes it much more concrete, makes it much more for everyone to understand, and particularly when talking to clients. It's like, oh, right, okay, yes, they've walked in now, and we've all seen those, funnily enough, YouTube videos of, like somebody in the supermarket walking up to someone with the clipboard and going, name, email, zip code, it's like, we know that that's how most websites sell, and it's funny when it's parodied, but this makes it very easy to explain, easy to understand, and much more concrete. I really like it.
Yeah, I need it for my simple brain sometimes. There's so much going on YouTube, and sometimes when you think like, okay, cool. Well, now I'm talking about 3 people. I'm thinking about like the window shoppers. What would I say to them? I've got to grab their attention and get my thing that I sell. And it's always good to, if you have a service or if you have a digital product, to turn it into like a system of some sort, so people can compartmentalize it and think, it's that thing you do, and give it a name, almost like make it a proprietary system as such. Or if you have a physical product, it's already done for you because that's kind of the thing, so to speak. And so you kind of want to tell them about this amazing thing, like bring them all in, like, hey, come and have a look at this thing. This is great. And then before you know it, you're like, it might work for you too. But let's just find out. Let's just actually see.
Yeah.
As soon as you ask them the questions about what they're actually interested in, and you follow up with them in that bespoke way, it's really powerful. And I know that Perry Marshall did the thing, which is like, will Facebook work for you, and will Google work for you? And I did a similar thing with will YouTube work for you? And it was just a few questions, and then I can kind of follow up really bespokely. That was my most powerful funnel for years, and I don't know why I stopped doing it. Like a classic marketer. Oh, it works. Okay, cool. Let's park that, and
Squirrel.
Let's work on something else. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm getting back into it now.
It's very similar to our mutual friend Kurt's belt method too. Yeah, we've got to give a shout out to Kurt here.
Yeah.
Because he'd never, I sent him a link to See Think Do a few months ago, and he'd never seen it, but they map really well. And particularly with, I think, Facebook and YouTube and GDN, to a point of just putting essentially that storefront in front of a vastly wider range of people. That's such a good way to think about it. Whereas what most people do is take their do content and their do offer, the checkout shopper offer, and then just try and blast that in front of everybody and then wonder why it's not working.
Yep, exactly.
So, yeah.
Or just like live with ridiculously low conversion rates and like, well, that's going to have to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So they're really proud of their 2% conversion rate, which again can be groundbreakingly amazing for businesses, which is great. It's just that as the costs increase, as they inevitably do on every platform, maybe not quite so much at the moment with coronavirus, but the cost, it will eventually go back up again, the CPMs, and it gets more competitive. And it's like, how are you going to differentiate yourself? Because everyone, like, if you're just trying to that one trick unicorn approach to selling, which is like, I've got this great thing and now I'm just going to try and do my very best to be amazing at copy, and you're relying on that. And this is like the real strategy behind creative is like, I just make the offer easier, and then the ad creative is easier. So I'm kind of trying to think like that. And then you got the checkout shopper, which is the third type, which is where they already know who you are, they know what the product is. They just need a bit of convincing, really, more than anything else, to be like, okay, cool. How much is it again? And all right, and what's my guarantee? And is there some scarcity here? Cool. Okay, perfect. I better buy now then, type of thing. So that's how I think about it prior to going in to promote anything with any clients. So I know that if I've got a window shop, I need to be big on the interest and then pull them into finding out more. Whereas an in-store shopper, I already know they're kind of quite motivated already, so it's an easier ad to create sometimes. That should hopefully help people think about YouTube slightly differently.
Definitely.
Cool. Okay. And this is interesting. This is from you actually, Mike. So the Rory Sutherland, who you put me in touch with, like, or kind of got me onto, I'll kind of dive deep into that. But I took a thing that he mentioned, which is like, I need to make a non-catastrophic decision based on imperfect information in a world where I can't trust people. And I thought, that is selling down to a T. That's like exactly what people are going through in their minds prior to making any decision. So if we break that down, I need to make a non-catastrophic decision. And so that's kind of, I don't want to make a decision that's going to make me look like a fool, basically.
Not the best, but definitely not the worst.
Yeah, precisely right. Yeah. So it's like, that's going to pull into people's status and identity. Like, they just don't want to look stupid in front of other people, because if they make a really bad decision, people around them are going to know about it. And
security too, right? Security too. That's part of you don't get fired for buying IBM thing, which you...
Precisely.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's very true. And then everyone always has imperfect information, partly because we can't be bothered to kind of find all the information. It's not easy, and most of that information is going to be hidden anyway. So I've just bought a load of I find that my decision making online these days gets shorter and shorter, and I get kind of bored of looking for more than 10 minutes, and I just make a decision. And it's like, whether it's a good decision or not, I'm hoping that I'm trusting in a brand, put it that way. And that says a lot, right? It's like so I've just bought like a load of money. It was about £1,000 worth of garden equipment. We've moved house and got a bigger garden, and I realized that batteries go into one type of brand. I didn't want to go and buy loads of different battery types for loads of different brands. I was like, oh, this one has like all of them, the same batteries fit into all of them. I was like, oh, great. Okay, we'll just buy that then. And then I couldn't be bothered to look outside of that because I recognized the brand. I was like, well, it's going to be good, and let's just move on. It's quite a big purchasing decision. But I just knew that I might be able to spend another hour and save £100 or something. I was like, nah, can't be bothered, move on. So
that's what satisficing is all about, right? It's like,
exactly.
It's not perfect, but, and also it's based on your values. So you value time.
Yes.
And you probably, you have more money than time. So it is worth giving up $100 to save you an hour of trawling around. It's like, right, okay, move on. I've got more important things to do.
Yeah, and you know what? There's
I've got Lego to do. Damn it! Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's like the non-catastrophic decision. I'm holding images of some of my family members in my mind, thinking I'm going to buy this, and I've got to make sure it's in the right price point. Otherwise, I think I got ripped off. And also, I've got to make sure it's good enough quality. Otherwise, I'm going to think, oh, I've just bought any old crap. Something. So it's
You're
like,
an idiot.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not buying this for myself any longer. I'm buying it for other people's status opinion of me, which is crazy. Anyway,
which is a very good insight. Yes.
Yeah,
sorry.
Exactly. So in perfect information, we never really have all the information. So we use heuristics. We're making mental shortcuts. Hence why I'm trusting in a brand to deliver on that. And I can't trust people. So I know they're selling. I know they're putting a bundle together and making it look all attractive. And I just can't trust them. But I'm going to have to make a decision anyway. So when you think about selling anything, it's kind of, that was just a really interesting insight. Good. All right, so let's talk about video creatives. I know that's why most people are here. So the two main types of YouTube ads, as people are probably aware of, and I know, Mike, you're doing lots with bumper ads as well. So I'd love to get your insights on that in a second. You've got these ones which are called discovery ads, which are on the right-hand side or at the top of the search results. And those ones you pay per click, basically. So you're paying when someone clicks to watch your video. So the thumbnail is really important there because you want to almost use the thumbnail for some qualifying. You don't want to put a thumbnail which is like, hey, come and learn this free thing. Or like the most amazing, you don't want to do clickbait stuff because if anyone clicks it and then realizes it's not for them, it's going to cost you a fortune. So you almost want to do the opposite of clickbait. I don't know what to call that. I don't know if you've got any ideas, Mike, but it has almost like to qualify people completely before they click to play. So
qualified bait just doesn't quite have that ring to it, does it?
Yeah, exactly. Unclickbait. Yeah. I don't know.
Non-clickbait.
Non-clickbait. Yeah. So that's kind of like the idea behind it.
Yeah.
Make sure that's there. So that's the discovery ad. And then you also have, if someone's about to press play on a video and they want to watch it, you can have the pre-roll in-stream ad here. And the in-stream ad, you can see on the bottom left-hand corner, it's got kind of the white section with the blue button within it. And you also have the skip ad button on the right-hand side, and that will kind of minimize after 5 seconds. But also, you can only click it after 5 seconds.
Before you move off that slide, it would be negligent as me, as a GDN guy, to point out the bloody great big red thing in the top right-hand corner.
Yes.
If you're doing GDN, I would highly, highly recommend you take a duplicate of your account or of that particular campaign, make a new one, only target youtube.com, drop your bid by about 75%, and you'll be showing bloody great big med reps up in the top right corner of YouTube for pennies on the dollar, and it's very, very, very good idea to do that. There's tons of scale.
I love the way that you phrase it. Very, very, very good idea to do that. That's like the full recommendation from Mike.
3 berries, yeah.
So I'm not a GDN guy. I know my team can do it to a certain extent, but I'm interested. So we don't do a huge amount of like the display advertising in that space. So you're saying, like, when you do this, you're saying run it to YouTube.com as the placement, of course.
It's the only placement, the only placement in the whole GDN campaign.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And then are you layering that with other targeting like keywords, or are you going even deeper into certain placements, like certain videos and things, or like what's your
we typically don't do managed placement with that, but it has been a way of doing discovery essentially. So we'll run that with a range of different targeting. I mean, we had one account, we got up to about 100 different purely YouTube targeted GDN campaigns with loads of different targeting. And this is going back a bit where, we both did things in a bit more of a granular way and less relying on a machine to discern intent. But then it would give us a really good insight as to which videos and which channels and which types of things are working well for this offer without the perceived hassle of, creating the videos that to the quality that you guys do it. Just as an easy way to check, is YouTube traffic a sensible source of traffic for us to explore for this particular offer, for this particular client? And obviously it's not giving you a full apples to apples kind of comparison, because you're showing a static ad versus a 2-minute video that's doing a lot of the pre-selling for you. But it was a great, quick and dirty way, bit of a 80-20 of an 80-20 type hack, just to discover corners of YouTube that might work well, so that then when we did get a video out of the client, then we could go straight to those places and basically give ourselves a kickstart for the YouTube side of things.
That's fascinating. So if you, let's say for example, a client came to you, they were looking to do YouTube, but they hadn't got any video creative yet. You're saying like a good strategy would be to say, use the youtube.com as a placement, and then maybe put some other targeting in there, but put your image ad in there. And then maybe would you target like a remarketing audience or something like that if they had like a large kind of viewership and there's something?
I'd be going more your sort of see think layers.
Yep.
So custom intent, probably not a lookalike. Custom intent would be the main one. Topic maybe, keyword definitely. We used to do a lot of keyword plus topic, both of us back in the day. That worked phenomenally well until it didn't anymore. But just to sort of to suss it out and get a sense of it. And just medrecs. So this has changed a bit since then, because now it's more responsive display and Google's giving a lot more impressions to responsive display, but I don't have any control over that. And I'm a control freak, and I don't know if they're going to turn that into an ad on the lower third of the video. So I'm going to keep it just as a 300 by 250 medrec. So the only place it can put it is top right.
Yeah, nice. Okay, cool. That's clever. I haven't thought of that before, so we'll probably steal that. Thank you very much.
Cheap traffic.
Yeah. Well, we do it, and we're doing more of it now. But like we haven't thought about doing it as like an initial test to see. Like it's a very quick, easy test to do, as you say, sort of thing, to be like, will YouTube work for this company? Well, let's give it a go by doing the GDN first, using youtube.com as a placement. That's quite.
You get that up and running in 30, 60 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And just gives you initial kind of data to be like, this seems to be a good audience here. That's cool. It's clever.
And then that's all I was telling you.
For something, Mike.
And that's all I was telling you about before we jumped on air, where we've got we pull this data into a G sheet, and we can immediately then you can ping the API and pull in the title. So you get your GDN sheet, which is like all of your video placements. Now you can pull in automatically the title, and you can just scan down that, what is working, what's getting impressions, what's getting conversions, different reports, and just scan down that. And that is another way of getting that YouTube keyword data that you were talking about at the top.
Interesting. Have you ever used those titles as a way of building custom intent audiences?
No.
I haven't either.
I've more been looking for themes within that, like lullaby, baby lullabies, baby go to sleep, that sort of thing. But yes, it would be interesting just to take that exact title, 300 of them, into a custom intent. Have to give that a go, won't we?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm learning. You're learning. Hopefully, people listening in are learning as well, which is good.
Or they've just wandered off for a cup of tea and go, God, they're just geeking out again. Just like, you said this was going to be about creative. You hasn't talked about video yet.
Yeah, I apologize profusely. Let's move on. Okay, cool. So yeah, you got the buttons here on the in-stream ads, and you can click that and go to the website. Now, the good thing about these ads is that you only pay for engagement, which means that you're paying when someone watches past 30 seconds, also known as your view rate, so the percentage of people watching past 30 seconds, or when someone clicks to your site. If you have an ad less than 30 seconds, you'll pay when someone gets to the end of that ad as well. So the savvy amongst you will think, oh, actually, do you know what? I've got a 20-second ad and then never have to pay for anything. Even if they don't click, you'll get charged if they get to the end of the video. But the thing I love about these ads is you are only paying for engagement, which means if someone watches 29 seconds of your ad and then skips, it doesn't cost you anything, which is really, really valuable. So yeah, these sorts of ads are kind of really big for scale as well. So I tend to use a lot of in-stream ads as my way to go. After this conversation,
I'll just add one tiny little bit on there, sorry, and if you probably got it coming, but because we've just been talking about remarketing, I think people miss the side benefit of, one, you're not only paying until they've watched 30 seconds, but also it's only those people that get added to your remarketing audience of people that have viewed a video as an ad. The keyword in there is viewed. So in order to get added onto remarketing, they must be considered a viewer, which means they've got past that 30-second mark, which is a really, really valuable group of people to have on a list.
Yeah, exactly. And 30 seconds on the internet is a long time as well, which is especially as an ad. So one question I had for you as well, and this, I don't know if you can answer this or not, because it might be sensitive data, but I know that you went to a presentation, or you go to lots of different presentations, and you saw one which talks about, based on engagement of a video ad on YouTube, you can build different remarketing audiences. Is that coming out, or is that not coming out, and even can you talk about it? I don't know.
The short answer is I don't know the answer to that. I know that you can. So with videos that you host, that's very, very easy to do. Wistia has a connection with GA. So if you've got Wistia, just to give people listening the background to that, if you have a Wistia video on your own site, then GA, Google Analytics, will tell you these are the people that made it to 25, 50, 75%, 100%, and you can build remarketing audiences on that very, very easily using GA. So what you're talking about is the potential to add people to a remarketing audience based on viewer rate of the video, right?
Yeah, without leaving YouTube, yeah.
Without leaving YouTube, and that's been rumored, but yeah, it's not that I can't say, it's that I don't know where they're up to with that, but I've got a meeting with Google in about an hour's time, so I'll ask.
Oh, nice. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that would be good to know. See, this is my trick. I say, yeah, I'll come on and give you some content, and now I'm just picking your brain. And so, yeah. All right, so let's talk about structuring your YouTube ad. So timing is really important with YouTube. You've got 0 seconds, 30 seconds, and around about 140 seconds. Bell curve of like results with YouTube ads that we've seen, I do a lot of data analysis, is that like 2 minutes 20 seems to be like the best time that we have, rule of thumb. I know that, Mike, you're doing really short videos and getting ridiculously good results, so I'm desperate to ask you about that in more detail. But I've seen ads that have worked at like 12-minute ads that have worked really well, 30-second ads have worked really well. So it's not like it's exclusive. It's just more like if we pull all the videos we've done with clients together, it tends to be like 2 minutes 20 just came out as like a really optimal time, so to speak. But that's not to say there's not anomalies to that data.
But no, but that makes sense because you're more focused on that middle audience, that in-store shopper, which is telling a story. And as you say, they've shown that teeniest bit of intent. Now they're in, and now you're educating them, and it makes sense that you need a little bit of time there to tell that story. Where we've had success with the super short ones has been purely just remarketing audiences. Like I wouldn't be using a 7-second video with those, I almost said middle of funnel, but with those in-store shopper audiences. That makes a ton of sense. And the only trick there is simply that, so bumper ads, for the most part, there's a caveat there, which I don't think I'm allowed to talk about, but do not have the big blue button of the TrueView for action. And so we didn't run them as bumper ads because you don't get the big blue button, and I want the big blue button because that's where all the clicks are coming from. So, and the team figured this out, not me, they're the smart ones. We just did really, really short videos, which are effectively bumper ads, but they're just 6, 7, 8-second videos, but we run them as in-streams. So that, yes, the skip button still appears, which it doesn't with a bumper ad, but there's no real time to click on it because it only pops up after 5 seconds, and these ads were 6, 7 seconds long. The difference is that you get the big blue button underneath, and of course that then sits there, right? If someone's watching a 20-minute long YouTube video, your companion banner with the big blue button sits there until the next ad, which is typically about 10 minutes later. You don't get that with a bumper ad. So by running the ad as a regular in-stream, you then get that companion banner sitting there while they're watching their video, just in case they think 5 minutes later, actually, this video is boring, I'm going to click that big blue button. So
you stay in their heads, And also with the True for Action, you have like the big blue button on the bottom left-hand corner, but then as soon as the video ends, I think you've got like a 5-second natural countdown timer that YouTube add onto the end of that video anyway. So you've got kind of, they hold the button there for another 5 seconds after your ad's played whilst they are waiting for then the video you're about to watch to play, basically. So you get that kind of added time with the button held there. So even though it's 7 seconds or however long the video is, it's probably more like 12 seconds experience in altogether.
We're gonna come back to the word experience because that's how I've been counting. That's the third time you've used it, and I think it's a really, really critical word. But we'll get to that at the right point.
Okay, cool. So you pay here at 30 seconds if you're running these in-stream ads, and first 5 seconds, what I like to do is try and call out the demographic that I'm talking to. Not necessarily like calling them out by their name, but it might be in the visuals. So I could if we're in the fitness space, for example, for the male ad, I might show a male person working out and the female equivalent female working out, so to speak. So it just allows the viewer to instantly feel like, oh, this might be for me. So really, really quickly. You can actually just say what you want to say. A way of doing it, if you want to target an older audience as well, or a certain age group without saying the age, is sometimes play music that from their era can work really well, or the sounds of that era type thing, or even show imagery of that era. So it kind of pulls in nostalgia a little bit. That can work
nice.
well.
Just make sure your music is copyright available and all that.
Precisely. Yeah, exactly. So it's the sound of that music as opposed to the kind of as opposed to the actual music.
It's very smart.
And then before 20 seconds, we like to do an early call to action, because if you pay at 30 seconds, we want to tell people, hey, by the way, this is an ad. So many people watch YouTube ads and don't actually realize they're ads sometimes. They feel like they're the video they were meant to be watching. And especially if you're doing in-store shopper type targeting, because then it's going to be pretty relevant for them as well. So they feel like, oh, this is a cool video. And they kind of forgot all about the video they clicked play. And so all of a sudden they're saying it. But we want to make sure they know it's an ad for 2 reasons. One, let them know it's an ad so they can skip if they don't want to see an ad, because we want them to skip before 30 seconds. But 2, I want to change the psychology from someone who's interested and curious and thinks, oh, I'll just hang on for a little bit longer to watch, to now a positioning of like, well, all right, I know there's an offer, convince me. So you're moving them from a curiosity mindset to a convince me mindset, just by putting an early call to action. It's subtle. It's like, hey, by the way, I've got this thing, and if you want to find out more about it, you can click here and it'll take you to the website. But let me tell you more about how this is going to work for you. So it's a subtle thing. It doesn't have to be a hard kind of call to action. But,
that's really good. This is why I love geeking out with you, because you come at it, and we geeked out on the behavioral economic stuff and Dan Ariely and all of that stuff, and I think we're both going deeper into that world. But it's just second nature for you. I have to think about it. I come at it more from the geeky side, and I know there's going to be people watching this going, oh, no. Because I don't pay till 30 seconds, I'll do an early call to action. I'll get them to click at 20 seconds and I don't pay anything. And 4 years ago, you would have been right if you're thinking that, but Google changed the rules. If you click and disappear out on that big blue button before 30 seconds, they are going to charge you. They figured out there's a lot of money to be made. That is exactly what we used to do, was to try and get the click before the 30 seconds, and then you would get the click and not pay. That loophole did not last very long. So it's for the reasons that Tom just pointed out, that the psychology part, and also you want them to skip if they're going to skip. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I don't want to ever tell a big long story on YouTube, because if I do that, they're watching out of curiosity, and we won't go past 30 seconds. Then when it comes to the offer, they're like, oh no, I'm not interested in that. So you kind of like just spend money on people that aren't going to buy. So yeah, we try and get rid of those people. That's why our view rates can be really low sometimes. Like I'm talking about like 17 to 20%. And people are like, well, that's a low view rate. Not many people are watching past 30 seconds. I'm like, yeah, because I'm kind of forcing that to a certain extent.
Yes, and when you lay out the maths, it makes sense that you want your view rate to go from 40% to 20% because you show why that's a good thing, because it's the, whatever it's called, the nominator, not the denominator. I don't know. I haven't. My daughter hasn't got to that point in maths where I've had to relearn the primary school maths. But yes, I know you're getting to that.
But you're completely right. Like that's the. So many people come to me and say, oh, my view rate's 45%. I've got such a cool, people love this video. I'm like, yeah, it's costing you a fortune. So yeah, it's just a consideration there. The rest of this kind of comes into your core content, and we'll go into that in a second. So like how you pitch your actual offer, and then the end is like your call to action. So it's really important that first 25 seconds is kind of nailed down to know how you're doing. And I'll give you some examples in a second. Yeah, the structure of the YouTube ad is really important. So when it comes to writing a really good script, we use a system called Educate. And this has been, I coined it quite a while back. And it comes from the, obviously, without teaching people to suck eggs and be really patronizing, it's Educate with an A on the front of it to make ad. Woohoo! But it actually, this system, like, really helps with getting the prerequisites of a really good ad down. And once you've got that down, then you can be a little bit more creative and break the rules and all that sort of stuff. But I always start here with anything, because I'm like, all right, if I stick really close to Educate, just so happens it works pretty well every time we create the video ad. So we kind of stick closely to this. So the first thing is the aim, and that's the aim of the viewer. Like, what do they actually want? What are they actually kind of watching the video for? And so if you can tackle that pretty early on, and you're going to know that if you know the search like query and kind of what they're looking for, you can be pretty specific with the way you might phrase that. Like, hey, if you're looking for this, listen in. It can be as simple as that. I mean, that's probably not the best start to a video in the world, but if you align with what they're actually wanting, and it doesn't have to be like the big benefit deep within you, kind of, I want to spend more time with the kids. Like, I wouldn't start with like, hey, if you want to spend more time with the kids, or if you want to improve your status around your friends, or anything like that. It's more like the surface level, what you're desiring at that moment. And of course, you want to layer in that kind of cool stuff later. But just get them to kind of start nodding. That's honestly how I think about it. I think like, if people kind of like start nodding as they're watching, it's like, oh, yeah, that sounds like me. That sounds like something I want to find out more about. And they're nodding along, and then you're like, cool, you're on the right path. Then you move into the difficulty. So this is where something's stopping them from achieving that aim. Someone, like, it's either something or someone, and it's not necessarily always the actual truth of the fact. It's that we hold demons in our brains that just don't exist most of the time. So it's kind of allowing that demon to come to life a little bit. Now, some like Chris, who works on our team, is ridiculously good at kind of getting into the mindset of this. And he kind of comes up with these beautiful ways of kind of explaining what this difficulty looks like and how it comes to life. So an example, not of something that Chris has done in our team, but something that you see a lot of, like with kitchen detergent and kitchen cleaners and things like that. I never tell you about all the bacteria types that it kills. They turn all those bacteria types into like a little green monster, and then your spray kills the monster. And so it's just easy for our brains to be like, cool, I get it, and I remember that. Yeah. And so you're kind of building up that difficulty, that kind of that thing in people's minds. And if you can, it's kind of the Eugene Swartz thing, I think it was, that he was talking about, like, meet the customer in the conversation they're having in their mind.
Robert Collier.
Robert Collier. Okay, thank you.
I know my old ad guys.
always getting corrected by me.
Trevor will be giving me a thumbs up at this point. He's brilliant, but he loves all of the old.
So I know the quotes, but not the people. That's yeah. So you're kind of, that's the kind of the idea. You want to make sure that you're kind of thinking about what your customers already thinking about, what's keeping them up at night, and turn it into something where you can phrase it in such a way they're like, that has never been phrased in that way before, and you've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what that's even a better way of explaining it than how I thought about it before. It's almost like when you do a really good personality test and they kind of read back to your results, you're like, my word, that is me. That's better than me. That's like exactly who I am. And it kind of uncovers stuff that you're like, yep, I agree with all of that. That's exactly me. So it's kind of that type of revelation you're trying to give to people. And that will build a lot of trust with them anyway, because of like they're actually being listened to and you get them. And then you move into the understand. And this is basically showing empathy, showing that you understand what that's like. And it's normally at an emotional level here. So you've kind of like maybe made this monster come real to life, and people kind of agree with you like, yes, I want this thing, this difficulty standing in the way, this monster standing in the way. And now if you can align with them emotionally, they're like, okay, cool. You actually feel what I'm going through, which is a big thing obviously in psychology, and it's all about emotion really. And so if we know what the feeling is that people are going through, and we can tap into that and let them know that we just acknowledge it. It doesn't have to be like, oh, we've been through it too. It's just like, hey, I know that it's
just validating.
Like exactly. Yeah. Then it just makes people feel like, okay, the first three things you've done is you've said, I know what you want. I know what's standing in your way, and I understand what that feels like. And you're like, okay, cool. If you nail that piece and it's not, it comes across as like authentic, then it does make people feel like, great, like let's carry on then. And this can all be done in less than 10 seconds in an ad. So it can be really, really quick, but it just allows you to, you're holding their attention at this point.
Yeah, Agora do something similar. I read one of their copywriting books recently, and it's this whole thing of like, this thing's wrong, but it's not your fault. And you basically are pointing blame outside of them, which gives them permission to have messed up in the past, but now there is a solution, and it's not your fault that you haven't done this. So it's very, very similar. It reminds me of Stephen Krug as well. Like, great book. I must have read it 12, 13 years ago. Don't Make Me Think. It was like the Bible of web design back then. But he said there's only two rules: make it easy, make it relevant. This for me is all about like hyper relevancy of getting me leaning in and go, and as you say, getting them nodding along, but then also, you get me, you understand me, I feel heard. Right, okay, now what else you got? You just, and like you say, you can do that in 10 seconds, but if no one does it, because they just come screaming in with buy my shit, and then wonder why it doesn't work.
And that piece that you said there as well, like with the oh no, I've got a little mind blank here, but I know what I want to say, and it kind of ties back into what you just said a second ago. But that idea that with any YouTube ad, or anytime we're pitching something from YouTube, we're definitely looking at how we can position this as a opportunity for somebody. So I think you're saying like the Agora thing, so you're blaming something else. That's the perfect thing to do, because what you're actually doing is you're giving them a way out of their old kind of way of thinking.
Yes.
If you're not like improvement offers, like if you say, hey, I can help you improve that, like telling people like, hey, you can like get Asana, as it's a much better CRM, for example, you're going to improve something. Or most people will position that as like, this is going to improve your daily life, it's going to improve your team, improvement means really within ourselves, we failed at what we tried to do before, and we hate failing, we hate admitting to the fact that we failed, and it frustrates us because it's a status problem for us. It's like, oh, I tried to do this, I made this decision in the past, and now I'm trying to improve it because I've buggered up that decision I made in the past, and I don't have the skills to be able to pull this off.
With that double whammy of hope as well, though, right?
Yeah, well,
you're selling the hope that my problem will be solved. There is a better way, and now I think I've found it, and I don't have to feel silly anymore.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you're just saying like all that stuff you believed before, you've been sold a lie, basically.
Right.
And it's not your fault. It's those people over there, or that thing over there, that's caused this. And now you can see that like that's never going to work for you. So here's a brand new opportunity for you. And jumping ship to a brand new opportunity is so much easier and so much more exciting than trying to fix what you've got. Because you have to admit failure, and now it's hard work ahead. So you're kind of like saying, oh, let's screw what we've done before, and now let's do something completely different. And that's why people change CRMs, or not necessarily CRM, but all the time, but like a project manager tool, for example. People like to jump because they're like, oh, I'm fed up with this tool. It doesn't do what we want it to do. I bet you it does. It's just you can't be bothered to try and fix the problem, and now you want to start with a fresh start.
Guilty, yeah.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know, it's kind of, when we're looking at any ad, we're looking to say the difficulty, and we get it, is like, we often try and use that psychology angle of like, this is a problem you've got right now. We get it, we understand it, and it's not something we even want to fix with you. We want to show you a brand new way of doing things, because people love adopting a new way of doing things. It's exciting, and it's not boring trying to fix what mistakes you've created in the past. And we don't like to admit that we made mistakes either. So it does make life a lot easier.
Good insight.
So with the guitar client I'm going to show you in a second, we strategically called it a reboot. So that it's the guitar reboot program that we go through. So it's like, you can just reboot. And like how many of you used to do that on the computer? Like we can try and either fix what's going on the computer or just press off and on again and just reboot the whole thing. And it's like,
turn the guitar off, turn it on again, and now you can play.
Exactly. And so it's kind of, the word reboot is like it's the same thing as an opportunity, really. So that we'll go through that in a second. So you've gone through aim, difficulty, understand. Now you're going to come into the credibility piece, where you don't have to big yourself up too much, or your system up too much. You might want to give it a very quick story about how your system was developed, or how it came to life and why it came to life, but be really quick with this. Or if you're kind of trying to show people that you're great, then maybe show them B-roll of you on stage, or stuff that you've done that's great, or whatever it might be. Or if the product's achieved awards or whatever, or it's got loads of customer reviews, great, add that in there. But just bear in mind that it doesn't need to go on for long, because people are just looking for a quick tick in the box to be like, okay, cool, yes, you can lead me. That's kind of what people are hoping.
Selfish question from me here. Do you find that you dial that up a bit more for the States and down a bit more for the UK and Australia and probably Canada? Like we both, that's natural for us to not talk about ourselves. I'm the same as you. I have a slide at the beginning of a presentation and I skip over it in about 3.5 seconds. Don't like talking about myself. But in the States, like I get told off by Perry Marshall for that. It's like, no, you need to talk about yourself more. You need to, big note yourself. And I've seen some speakers in the States, we've both seen them on a 40-minute stage spot, and they'll talk about themselves for the first 20 minutes. It drives me insane that American audiences do respond more to that. And if you don't big note yourself, they think something's wrong. So do you play with that depending on where the video's going to be seen?
I must admit, I probably don't do it enough for a US audience as I should do. But I do believe that if you get the aim, difficulty, and understanding right, it's credibility in itself.
Yes.
If you speak in such a way where people are like, my word, someone actually gets me, like that in itself is kind of like the credibility piece for me as well. So I don't like to necessarily go too deep into credibility and talk about, like, I like to drop the pieces that I think are the most prevalent pieces. So like, let's say, for example, you've built a chair, for example. Like I know someone's come to me recently with this like amazing new chair, and the chair was developed by the lead developer of BMW or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Right.
So it's almost like, well, if that person put their time onto that chair, it must be pretty good. It's not going to be a piece of rubbish, sort of thing. So you can quickly get away with some good credibility. If you've got an established brand already, that obviously helps. But if you're needing to build a brand, the ad's not the place to do it, I don't believe. I feel like get through it quickly. You're just building up that kind of curiosity to get the click, and then you can do the rest of the experience later.
Because in See Think Do, I would normally save most of the credibility for the do stage, because that's they've gone from, what did you say that the question in the head was at that in-store shopper? It's like, so how do I fix my problem? Yeah, will this work for me? So then when they move from that to, okay, but now why you? That's the question when they get to the do stage or the checkout shopper. It's like, I'm going to buy this. Who am I going to buy it from? Why you? That for me is the place where most of that credibility would normally come in. So that fits perfectly with this. Just enough, skip over it. Like you said, I agree. You've done it in the first 3 by showing relevance.
Exactly. Yeah. If you can talk in such a way where people are like, I get it. That for me feels like that's more credibility than what you have to say about yourself. But you're right. Like you've got to think about the question that's going through their mind as they go through this. Like aim difficulty is super relevant for them immediately. They're like, oh, great, this is what I want. Understanding is like, okay, cool, you get me. That's cool. They're not thinking, who are you? I don't think, in my mind, immediately at that point. I believe that, like, okay, go on, talk to me more about this thing. And then later they're like, all right, well, no, hang on a second. I'm in. I love this idea, but wait a second. Can I trust you?
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, it goes back to your earlier slide of, okay, you're going to now talk to me about this thing, which I want to believe, but can I trust you? And it's just enough to get over that little speed bump, isn't it? So that they keep on listening.
Exactly, yeah. And you want to keep it super relevant to them all the time. If you start talking about yourself too much, then it's like they're getting suckered into that. And I'm like, no, I want to keep it really on this, keep it on the sale for the time being. Of course, if you're speaking from stage and you've got kind of 90 minutes with an ad, you've got kind of 90 seconds, so it's slightly different. Yeah. I don't pull on too much on that credibility. And it's probably my Britishness coming through more than anything else, but yeah.
I think you do it, and I know you're going to show this in a minute with the Tony video, but little things like the guitars in the background and so on, that has been built in. And like you say, the music, just by having it right, it's not jarring, and that instantly gives you credibility. It's part of the, you understand me, you get my world, you're just like me, that you're doing that in very subtle ways. So it's not just I've done this. Oh, now let me tell you about all the awards I've won for 5 seconds. It's much more subtle than that, especially the way you do it, which is why Ogilvy, Tony.
Oh, cool.
Rory,
okay, cool.
you and Rory should catch up for a coffee a G&T when this is all done.
G&T, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, we'll have to stop the video now. My gin has arrived. I love that.
That's great, isn't it? So you build that credibility, and then the next thing you do is you position yourself as like that leader in their mind. So like, okay, cool. I believe I can trust you. Then they're going to be like, right, what's the plan then? What do I do from here? Like, why is this product so good? Like, or like, how do I talk to me more about this product? And so if it's a physical product, this is going to be probably more of a case of highlighting 3 areas of that particular product and why it's so cool. If you've got a service or a digital product of some sort, then you definitely want to turn whatever it is you do into a 3-step plan, but also call it like your proprietary system if you can. That's not always easy to do, so this bit takes a bit of time and work sometimes. But if you can say, look, this is the system we've used for years and it's worked really well, you're then not building credibility for yourself, you're building credibility for the system. And that is a nice way of positioning it, because you can big up your system so much more easily than you can big up yourself. This system has helped hundreds of thousands of customers get insane results, if you wanted to put it that way. Whereas if you're like myself, I have helped hundreds of thousands. It's like, I, like my BS grade, I was just gone up to the roof. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Whereas if it's the tool you built, or it's the thing you've got, like the system you built, it's like, okay, that's cool. It makes it a lot easier. So an action plan for me is like normally a 3-step thing. And I know it's difficult to do 3 steps all the time. So sometimes you can go to 4 steps, but really try
not 57 is what you're saying.
Oh,
like I did the other day with the Shopify thing. I broke it down into 57 steps. It's
like if you're talking to your tech team and you're building out a SOP, then 57 steps is absolutely fine. But if you're pitching to somebody, they've got kind of like 3 things they can hold in their head. Otherwise, they're going to start forgetting it, and then they're going to be more interested in, oh, what did you say again? I can't remember what it was again. And they're not thinking about the sale anymore. You've got them into a thinking mode.
And this isn't an opportunity anymore. This is just bloody homework and hard work. Who wants that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, more hard work. I've just got rid of that hard work that you told me to get rid of a second ago. So the action plan, make it seem really easy, make it seem very relevant, and simple to do as well. Like so something that kind of keeps in my mind is it doesn't have to be easy. The steps have to be easy for a person to take, but it doesn't have to be easy, but it does have to be simple. So you can people see it and be like, cool, I've got it. Like there's simplicity there. And now if I go into more detail about this, yes, I'm going to find more intricacy, but it's actually just a 3-step thing, and I can compartmentalize it to 3 things. That makes it a lot easier.
It's funny, it makes me think of Seth Godin, and he talked about the pass along story. So you're giving people a story to justify the reason, but you're also, a subtle part of that is you're giving them part of that story in order to justify it to others, be that a business partner, a partner, team, whatever it is, the board, being able to say, like, I did this thing because but you've given them that pass along story, which is super powerful because they are telling themselves a story in their head of why they're doing this, why they didn't do it before, why now is the right time, why you. All of that justification and rationalization that they have to go through after they've emotionally decided to buy the thing, packaging that up in a nice little message for them to not only convince themselves, but to convince others that it was the right thing to do, I think is just the icing on the icing of the cake here.
That's nice. I'm glad we're recording this. I'm going to go back over that and like steal that completely and say, yeah, just make it sound like me who said it as well. Just to that's very true. And I thought you were going to say like this pass along thing, which is like it survives 7 phone calls or whatever it is. Like, so if you have like Chinese whispers type thing, that might be a Dan Heath thing from Made to Stick, but like the story needs to be simple enough, and as people rip it apart, the core of it stays the same. So it's almost like if it's 3 steps, people kind of can start remembering 3 steps. And if they had to have 7 phone calls, the 7th person on the phone call can still hold it together and say, well, it's a 3-step plan, and it's like this, and this.
Right.
It's going to sound different, but 3 steps easier to think about rather than if you have, as you say, 57 steps.
Yeah, it's a story brand too, right? What's his name?
Yeah. Don Miller.
Miller. Yeah, talks about that. Just give it the same thing. 3-step plan. Keep
it easy.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you give the 3-step plan. The great thing about that is it's kind of concealing a lot of value. You're saying it's 3 steps, but then in the teach section, which is the next piece, you might unpack one small part of it. So knowing that they haven't got much time because it's an ad, what you can do is like, look, this kind of 3-step plan, let me just take one piece out of this. So an example might be like, okay, your book is written in 3 major chapters. First one is traffic, the next one's conversion, the next one is profit or whatever. And you know, that's the 3 steps you need to master online business. I'm kind of thinking off the top of my head here.
It doesn't show.
So you might say, right, those are my 3 chapters. And so you say, this book is going to transform everything you're doing. It's completely new opportunity, blah, blah, blah. Broken down into 3 things: traffic, conversion, and profit. And let me just break down one section inside of conversion, which is actually on page 76 here. Look at this. And then you just like show one small section that kind of is the sort of thing that if you're going to say it from stage, it's exactly the same tip that people write down.
Yeah.
I'm always surprised. I stand on stage and I think I say things at a real profound moment, and everyone's like, yep, got it. And I'm like, no one's writing anything down. And then I say something else and they start writing it down. And I'm trying to take note of that because I'm like, when they start writing things down, I know that there's like a good piece that I've just said. And so I try and think of that as my teach section. So I'm kind of like giving them a snippet of cool stuff that makes them feel like, well, if that was just one piece of the action plan, the rest of it must be amazing. I'm in. Like, what's the next step?
Yeah. And I hate it when I mention someone like, I just mentioned Chris Mercer, and everyone writes down Mercer's name. I'm like, no, that wasn't the good bit. I was like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he's speaking right now in room 4.
In that other room. Where'd they go?
And so, you've got kind of the teach section there. So it's unpacking just one small thing that makes people feel like that was cool. If that's just a small part of what you're about to give me, that's great. And then your exit plan or your exit here is your kind of call to action here. So you're saying, right, this is the point which you're coming to the end of the video. You kind of introduced this action plan and this teach, and now you've got to sell them on the next step of it. And hopefully you're going to unpack this action plan somewhere. Now, if it's a digital or service-based business, easy to do that because you're just going to have probably a webinar or a video training or something where they can find out more information or whatever it is, like a PDF or whatever. If it's a physical product, the action plan should be highlighting 3 major parts of the physical product. And then in the teach section, you might actually kind of say, hey, and if you actually do this to the product, it might be kind of one really unique thing that makes it really cool that everyone raves about. Do that piece. So you're kind of like highlighting like a demonstration of the product in use and teaching that one little small bit. And then the exit plan obviously is going to click to find out if this is going to work for you.
So teach here is, or certainly for physical products, but probably for the service and digital side too, is a bit of sort of show, don't tell. Would that be fair?
Yeah, so one thing that you can do really well with the teach section for physical product that I've seen work really well, and this comes from Ron Lynch. So the action plan, you might kind of give a presentation of the product, so to speak, to be like, look, here's how it works, like the salesman showing a demonstration of how it works, but you don't trust the salesperson because you're thinking, it's great to find out this information, but I don't trust them because they probably shot it 100 times and they've got that to perfect that time. That coffee was from that coffee machine looks perfect this time, but I bet it took it 100 takes to do it. So then what you do in the teach section, you say, but look, let's go on the street and find people that can do this too and see what their results are, sort of thing. So you might do the man on the street filming at that point to be like, let's put this product in the hands of the public and see what they think about it. And you can't fake, like, unless you get actors who are amazing, but normally if you hand it to someone who's not an actor and they kind of see the product and they see the kind of result of it, they're like, this is really good. I love this. This is really cool. And if you get that really good reaction from people and you kind of see the before and after effect of them using the product, it sells itself really, really quickly. So that teach section can almost be like an unpacking and kind of almost like a testimonial within it as well. It's like,
nice. That Ron Lynch is a smart bucker, isn't he?
A little bit. Yeah, he's good. And so, the call to action. Yeah, the call to action at the end of this, normally for me nowadays, it used to be like, now send it straight to the sales page or straight to the opt-in page or whatever it is we're doing for a client.
Right.
Now what we do, and what we're doing a lot more of this now, is we're saying the exit point is where we say, well, let's see if it's going to work for you. Like we've positioned this kind of, precisely right. So I could talk about YouTube ads and be like, talk through aim, difficulty, understand, credibility, action plan, and teach. And so they're kind of like, wow, this sounds so cool. And then I say, but look, YouTube doesn't work for every single business. I hope you understand that. Certain businesses just won't work on YouTube because there's a certain type of customer that might not be right for everybody. So I put a tool together that can really help. And I'm going to ask you a few simple questions. And based on that, I can actually give you a much more bespoke follow-up and tell you if YouTube is going to work for you. Now, doing that, your call to action now becomes much more of a pull away, which is a really attractive way of selling. So you're saying, this is all great. And then you pull away and say, but it might not be right for you.
Yeah.
But that makes people really want it.
Yeah.
By making them have to qualify for it, it really positions that trust factor as well, because you're all of a sudden saying, this, look, I just want to be honest with you, it's not right for everybody. So if you can just qualify, please, that would be amazing, because then that can actually help you.
Yeah, and on the service side, you're now saying, well, I don't know, sell yourself to me. Why should we? You're now the prize, and they're having to justify why they should be a good fit for you is kind of what you're doing with that, which is very powerful. This is awesome stuff. So this is fantastic.
Thank you. I've been doing it for 7 years, just on YouTube. If you think like someone like Kurt Marley, who you were giving props to earlier, he's got his belt method. Okay, now we know he's into Facebook advertising, and loads of other people advertise on Facebook in loads of different ways. The belt method is working ridiculously well for a lot of people, and Kurt's amazing and all that sort of stuff. When he talks about, if he was to do in his structure, then the action plan would be like, he would break down part of the belt method and how it works, type thing. But he's built this proprietary system, which is the belt method. I don't know what it is, but it sounds amazing. People are getting great results with it. And he's taught me something about that belt method that I'm like, I kind of get it now. That's cool. But I don't know the whole thing just yet. And then if he was to say to me like, but hey, look, the belt method works for loads of businesses, but not every single business. I just want to be completely honest with you. So if you answer a few simple questions, I can actually tell you how the belt method might work for you. Yeah. And then you answer those questions, and then it's like, cool, yeah, I can see how that would be right for me now. But he can be really bespoke with his follow-up there. So for me, my exit or my call to action now from pretty much most clients, we're always trying to pull away at the end and say, this might not be right for you, so let's find out first. A lot easier to do in the digital and service-based businesses, because immediately it's a simple kind of, this system that we built might not be right for you, so let's find out. With a physical product, it's more a case of saying, this is a great product, let me show you how it will work for you specifically. So let's say, for example, you're selling the Peloton bike, for example, something I'm thinking about potentially investing in, especially how exciting at home is all you get.
Everybody at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. That's the sort of thing where I'm like, okay, cool, I can go on your website and find out more about it and read all about it myself. But if you were to ask me a few simple questions about my setup at home, have I got enough space here? Like, how do I log in and all that sort of stuff? And ask me the questions that I have in my mind, and you can preempt those questions and then follow up with me. I will definitely do that, opt in, and then I'll kind of like get the answers that I want, like a bespoke follow-up for me. Then I'm going to be super engaged, and I'm much more likely to buy at that point than if they say, hey, sign up to our free VIP email list. I'm like, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to get spammed. But if I sign up for my answers, different story.
It's a subtle variation too on championing the objection, isn't it? Because like you say, like, have I got enough space? Is it like those questions are essentially objections that you are now allaying that fear by bringing it out front, asking them about that, by saying, because if it's not the right thing for you, then, sorry, you can't have it. So you've removed that salesperson lack of trust by positioning it that way. And I have to give a shout out at this point to a fellow Agency Savvy member, Nick Paccaral at leadshook.com. If you're new to Agency Savvy and you don't yet know Nick, then you really want to look into leadshook.com as the piece that you might use for this bit that Tom's talking about here in terms of asking those questions. You can use a quiz, you could use Typeform, you could use other platforms out there, but the power of Nick's thing, yes, there's a bit of a learning curve there, but his training is second to none. But the decision tree of being able to ask someone a different question 4, depending on how they answered question 2, is immensely powerful for something like this. So just wanted to give Nick a shout out because he's built an amazing tool.
Yeah, and decent and awesome guy as well. The I would say also, like, with this, the types of questions you want to ask as they come through is going to be like desired pain-based questions, and it might be just one question. Then your qualifying facts question. So will they actually, let's say, for example, they're coming through to your agency, for example, Mike, then you have to be spending a certain amount of budget. If you've never done any advertising online before, you probably won't be the right sort of business for you. I don't know, but probably not. And so you'll have certain thresholds where you're like, right, if you haven't ever spent money on advertising, we're unfortunately not the right agency for you. And so you're going to have like the fact-finding, qualifying questions that will be the concrete, like yes or no type responses. And then also you'll have, as you quite rightly say, the objection questions as well. So if you can work out what those objections are likely to be, like they're bugbears, or like they may have bought similar products in the past they weren't impressed with, or like what frustrates them about this industry, etc. Those sorts of questions. If you find out what those are for people, then you can really be clever with your follow-up. Because you can be like, okay, you want this, you do qualify, but you've got this problem in terms of your objection. Now your follow-up can preempt that, and you can give them a really, really cool follow-up, so it makes them feel very comfortable to make a sale, or at least take the next step, whatever it is you're doing next, so to speak. So if you're really clever, like those are the 3 sorts of questions we like to ask, just to basically help us pitch a better, like a bridge before the offer comes in.
Very good. So,
and then at this point, play around with it. Like, don't feel like you have to be locked into that order doing things. We like that order, it makes sense psychologically, but sometimes you look at your scripts and you're like, oh, I can cut a load of this out, and I can also put this other creative idea I've got in, and go for it. Like, do whatever you want, put your own spin and style on it, like, but just kind of go through that process, because if you get that down, then you're going to have a really good, the prerequisites are there to create a really, really good ad. But sometimes we see something that's just like, a client will give us something that's just so insanely good that we're like, all right, we have to kind of lead with that. That's just too important to not lead with that. And then like the rest of the ad flows off the back of that. But just, and I would say, like with video, it's really obvious the ones that succeed with video ads is the ones that really enjoy and have fun with the process. Like if you try and do things in the way that, like I would like people to go through this process and see good results of this, of course. And once you get to this point, you've written those educate moments down for yourself, and you've kind of got all the pieces down. Then the people that really do well with video is like they experiment and have fun with it and enjoy the process, and kind of get a team involved, or whatever it is that you kind of want to do, not kind of trying to be serious about it and all that sort of stuff. Like you might have like a corporate persona, or you might have like a more professional outlook to how you want to be perceived and your branding and things. but definitely, if you just think like, okay, cool, this is going to be fun. Let's do it and let's enjoy this whole process. You tend to always see better ads from people when it's like that, who are ready to experiment and play around with it and such, as opposed to trying to follow to the letter. I always see that.
Good insight. Like that.
All right, so we do a quick autopsy of a video. Would that be useful?
Yes, please.
Okay, cool. So I don't know what we're like on time, by the way. I'm good to go forever, but whatever.
Well, yeah,
let me know if we're going to running out of time or anything.
Look, I'll just be late for Google. Fuck them. Keep going.
That's how important this is. Yeah. Okay, cool. So this one has got like a 2.4% click-through rate, which is really good for us. Works incredibly well. And there's 7 things I can show here, but there is so much more going on in this video. And maybe what we can do is we'll give you the link to this afterwards or something. Maybe we can work out how to do that. I don't know where you're going to want to host this mic and stuff, but I can give you the link to this ad. All right, so we do a quick autopsy of a video. Would that be useful?
Yes, please.
Okay, cool. So I don't know what we're like on time, by the way. I'm good to go forever, but whatever.
Well, yeah,
let me know if we're going to running out of time or anything.
Look, I'll just be late for Google. Fuck them. Keep going.
That's how important this is. Yeah. Okay, cool. So this one has got like a 2.4% click-through rate, which is really good for us. Works incredibly well. And there's 7 things I can show here, but there is so much more going on in this video. And maybe what we can do is we'll give you the link to this afterwards or something. Maybe we can work out how to do that. I don't know where you're going to want to host this mic and stuff, but I can give you the link to this ad.
I'll make it work.
Find out more about it. Cool. Okay, so this is an ad from Tony Policastro, guitar tutor guy, just amazing, just such a cool business. If you ever want to learn how to play guitar, go to tonypolicastro.com. But the video starts out, and before anything else happens, it's a very strategic position he's in. So he's in like a room that would look like any room that you would be in if you were learning to play guitar, in terms of like there's not like a fancy office behind him. He's thought about like what's going on in this environment. And then he's got his guitars stacked up on the left-hand side, or on his left-hand side, on our right-hand side, and his vinyls in the background. So it just immediately shouts at you like, okay, he's old school in terms of you've got the vinyls there in the background. He's into his music massively. I would love to find out what he's like into. And then he's got loads of these guitars as well. So he immediately like, okay, I'm listening to a pro here. And then the video breaks down. So he kind of starts with the aim and the difficulty and things like that. But very, very quickly, it breaks across to his community. And they do these like meetups in his community, and they all get together and they all shout this thing, Guitar Geeks Unite. So he's got these clips of all his like guitar players getting together. These are his customers who get together in random locations and play together. So he kind of facilitates this, that will happen. And they build like a massive community, and it kind of builds up credibility, it builds trust, it builds fun as well, because that's one of the most important things around this is like, it looks like it's fun, and guitar tutor, like learning how to play guitar is normally perceived to be quite boring once you're actually into it. Like all you want to do is riff out on it, but you're like, here's my scales. No one likes that. So it builds that solidarity as well with the audience, and it's like belonging. I want to be in that community. I want to be one of those people, which is a cool feeling. One of the big things about community though is that if you can show that you have got community, it shows to people immediately that you kind of got skin in the game. If that makes sense. So sometimes if you have an ad that doesn't show anything to do with the business that you actually have, or talks through something bigger than what it is you're selling, so to speak, like how this fits into a bigger business or something, you want to quite quickly show your like something bigger than what your brand is about, if possible, because it shows people that like you're not a fly-by-night business. You've like, by seeing his community and they're all screaming the same thing, Guitar Geeks Unite, which is one of their sayings. You can't ignore the fact that it must have taken time to build that community. And if there's a community there, they must love Tony. They must love his stuff, because you wouldn't have a good community if you didn't have that. And so immediately we're just making these mental shortcuts in our heads of like, well, this is a credible brand and I want to be part of it immediately. So you can be really strategic with what you show in an ad, to immediately bring through the unconscious feelings of like, all right, this is the real deal here. So it can work really, really well. Like, it wouldn't just be one or two case studies that are like, or testimonials from people. It's more like, here we have just the perfect opportunity to show.
Yeah, it's more FOMO than trust at this point. It's very clever.
But let's say, for example, you put on an event, for example, like, and it has to be your own event with your own customers, let's say. But you put on an event, it's got your branding in the background, you're on stage, and they're watching you and all that sort of stuff. That means you've done something pretty spectacular. You've managed to build trust with enough people for them to all come here, and it means you've got kind of, as you say, like skin in the game. It's not like you've made this business yesterday and now you're off and running. It's like this must have taken time, and you're willing to run ads to show your community. Like, it's almost like you must be good. It's a unconscious feeling we get immediately. So it's a lot of trust that's going to be built there very quickly.
Yeah.
Cool. And then he comes in here so that again, early in the video, it's got a kind of early call to action. So it's like, click the link below to see me break down the exact framework that they followed step by step. So again, it's not Tony saying, let me show you how great I am or anything like that. It's the framework he's starting to say, like, the framework is the thing that unlocks really cool guitar playing. And they followed it step by step. So you're priming the viewer as well to the fact that I'm selling something, but it's done in a soft call to action way. So again, it's moving people from that curiosity feeling to more of a connect. All right, convince me now. So we have shown this on the ad here in the bottom left-hand corner with like, click here to find out more. So we've actually edited that in, but prior to uploading it to YouTube as an ad. So we know that kind of we're calling the attention to that section of the video. Cool. Then one thing that he does in his videos a lot of as well, which works really well, is like, he does these really clever transitions. I'm realizing that if I can find the video, I'll play it through this. So kind of, because it probably gives more context around this, but transitions can work really, really well. So with the video he kind of like does these really focused in areas, like, as you can see here, it's like the buckle of a guitar case, and it's locked, and then his hand disappears out of screen. But just by doing that one little clip, it just breaks your mind for a second to be like, all right, now I'm looking at something guitar-like and it's cool, and kind of it refreshes your brain a little bit. And all of a sudden we're onto something new. We're doing something different at this point. So he has been speaking to you. You've kind of cut to the community look. He's gone back to Tony again, and now he's outside. So you follow with him outside, and he's going into his car. It looks like you're about to go on a journey with Tony, which is pretty cool. You're like, hey, where are we going? So you're going to want to stick around to see where you're headed. So the journey begins, and he's put the guitar in the back of his car. And it's like, cool, where are we off to? And he says, like, we're off to the studio. So that all of a sudden now you want to know what the studio looks like. And, oh, this sounds cool.
Very clever.
And one other thing that we do in the video as well, in fact, if I go back for a second, when this kind of goes on, I wish I could just show you the video. I don't know how easily they play over these platforms.
Yeah,
I probably can find it in a second.
Not very well, but I will link to it. If you're watching
Cool.
this, it'll be, wherever you're watching this, it'll be very close by.
So what Tony does is you go into the car with Tony and you sit in the front seat, or the camera at least does, and he's driving the car and he's talking to you about what he's about to teach you. And I love that piece. It doesn't have to be in a car per se, but what you're doing is you're starting to share a very personal space with somebody. And if you are able to do that, it's a very exclusive, private space that you see it happen in documentaries when people are looking to really bond with the documentary presenter, is that they'll kind of like have them in the car and make you feel like you're sitting with them in the front seat. And the reason being is because it kind of makes you feel like you're really close to the presenter, close to that person. You're like, oh, if I'm sitting in the front seat, this is only friendly. Like, it's a nice way of positioning things. So that happens in this video, and he drives to the studio, and then he's in the studio and he talks through. But on the journey itself, it gives you perfect opportunity to kind of, again, have another transition from the car into the studio, and it also gives you the perfect opportunity to kind of continue that journey with them, and use a lot of B-roll in that journey as well. So you can kind of show more of the community and the things that people like. We've got like a testimonial on this ad as well, like people saying like, here's what I'm like on day 1, and here's what I'm like on day 30. And it's like, you can just see their guitar playing is massively improved. So a lot goes on in this video. but it's
Very
all super
cool.
quick. Like, it's really cool. Now, when we do the call to action, we're really looking to future pace them and make it look easy. So we say, look, once you click the link on this video, here's what you're going to see. And it goes through to like what the page is going to look like. And when you get there, you can click the button, it's going to open up this pop-up, and you put your name and email in. So it's almost like a screen recording of what's going to happen next on the next page. And by doing that, whilst you're still on the YouTube video, this YouTube video ad, you're watching it, but you're being shown what's going to happen after you click. And it's just future pacing somebody through that process. So when they get there, it's very familiar. They know what's going to happen next. It's not like clicking and having complete ambiguity of what's going to be the next step. You're saying, click here, do this, and you'll be registered for this YouTube or this webinar that he's got. Or I think he's called it the Reboot. Reboot Your Guitar Life, I think it is, or something.
Right.
So again, positioning is that opportunity rather than an improvement. It's a brand new way of doing things. He kind of gives you a reason to disregard everything else you've learned in the past. This is a brand new way of learning how to play guitar. But the future pacing of it makes it just feel like, okay, so I click, then I go here, and that, I haven't got like official stats on it, but I just know that kind of will increase your conversion rates on the page. It's going to be the sort of thing where people, when they know what to expect next and they see it and they know what to actually do next, that is just so much smoother for people to go through that. So we just allow them to see that next. And then the old classic countdown timer at the end of the video. So you're still playing the video. You can see Tony in the background there in the studio, and he's got all these jams around. I still don't know why he put the jams there. I kind of asked him about it, and it's something to do with like a thing within his community or something. Like, I want to be like, is it jamming out or something? I don't know. But he's got all these jams stacked up, and I don't know, weird. I don't know why it's in there, but it's in there. And but at the end of the video, you kind of count down for 5 seconds, and that adds natural scarcity. So a scarcity that's subtle and just like says like time's running out on this video. And we've seen our click-through rates increase by 32% by doing that. So very, very worthwhile adding those kind of countdown timers, because all those people on the fence all of a sudden think, oh, time's running out, I better click. So you have that kind of opportunity to increase that conversion rate there, or that kind of click-through rate there, which works really well. So that brings us to the end of that video, and like the autopsy of it. But as I say, I'll send you the link of that so you can kind of get it.
Right.